Hi everybody, it's Lynn from the Swirly Doos Education Design Team, and welcome to this month's blog hop. And I'm going to be showing you what I created with October's Technique Kit. And oh my goodness, the fun I had. So without me continuing to talk a whole lot, we're going to take out all the pieces parts to the kit. Okay, and in there you're going to find some gloss gel medium, some gesso, olive vine silk acrylic glaze, and then the primary elements, which is this amazing ground pigment with mica lusciousness. Okay, and I'm also going to use a binder, and so we're going to begin the process. Now, the first thing that I did was that I took a little bit of the primary elements. I had some persimmon shimmering mist, also put out by Luminarte. And what I did was I put a little bit in a spare bottle that I had, and then I just took my popsicle stick and put a little bit in here, and it changed the color of my amazing shimmering mist. All right, so having actually spritzed this all on the wrong side, we're going to do it again. So here is my shimmering mist that I made up. I do find that it does adhere a little bit better and it flows a little bit better if you put a little bit of water on there. And this batch is definitely darker than the batch I had made previously, but that's okay. You'll get the idea. Oh, there we go. All right, and then what I did was I just kind of rumpled and crumpled because I wanted the edges to be a bit frayed. Just giving it a little more character. And then also what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off right down the edge here where the holes are because I really don't want those showing on my cover. So after we have the edges all crumpled and we've cut this piece off, we need to dry our piece of colored canvas. Okay, so the next thing that I did was I took some of my gesso and my palette knife. Now, in the kit, there are popsicle sticks which you can use and they will work just fine. So I'm going to take a good old glob of gesso out of the little container. And then this is when I got my ultimate surprise. So here I have the primary elements, and if you look at it, it looks all nice and brown and all of that. But when, surprise, surprise, you take a pile of this and you mix it with the gesso, suddenly it turns like yellow. And when I first did this, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this? But then thinking, well, gesso is a primer, so that if I use this mixture with my stencil, my mask stencil here, then I'm going to prevent any of the mist that I sprayed my canvas with from seeping through. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take some of this gesso and trying to hold my stencil firmly down, and I'm just going to smear this kind of in a random fashion. I don't want the whole thing to be square. I kind of want the the brick to be looking like it's kind of, I don't know, falling off the edge here. So I'm just going to take this and fill in the whole stencil, mask, whatever you want to call this, with my gesso. Whoops, I guess I'm going to have to make a little bit more. There we go. And we'll pull that off. And I don't care that this kind of all slobbered down in there because I'm going to be using that as the cluster where my flowers are going to go. All right, and then what I do is when I'm working with any type of stencil / masks, I keep a wash tub full of water so that I can just throw this in there, because I don't like to stop and clean everything when I'm in the throes of creating. I want to just be able to keep going on. But if all of this dries on here, well, that's not so good either. So I'm going to go clean this because I do have a little bit more that I want to put up here. Okay, so I've dried the bottom section down here, and now I'm going to take my mask and I'm going to lay it back over top of here because I want to finish the brick wall down my piece of canvas here. So I did have to make a little bit more of my gesso primary element goop here. So we're just going to take some of that and lather that back on. And there we have it. And so we will now dry that. I didn't want my brick wall to be a yellowy kind of white looking thing, but as I said before, this is gesso, so what this is helping to do is to keep this beautiful burgundy brownish color from seeping through. So the next thing I did was I took a paintbrush that I've got wet and I dipped it into the primary elements and got some out. And then I'm also going to dip it into the binder, because you kind of want equal parts of this. And then I'm going to spray it with a little bit of water and create a wash. Now this is a totally different color than the yellow that you got when you mixed it with the gesso. So I'm just going to continue to add a little bit of water to this. And now what I want to do is I'm just going to kind of go over top. Still a little darker than I want. And I'm just going to paint over top of the bricks with this color, using it pretty watered down. Now I'm just going to kind of spritz it with a little bit of water and dry it. So as this was drying, some of the places were a little bit lighter than what I really liked. So I just kind of went in and added a little bit more, just some quick little brush strokes over top my bricks. And made sure that it was all good and dry. And now that I have all of this leftover primary elements mixed with water, I am going to wet the edges of my canvas here. And I'm going to dip my canvas in this. And then we can wet it and let it just run and have its way. And then just kind of forcing it to run a little bit more. I've added some more water, and then we're going to need to dry this whole thing. Okay, so for the most part, this is dry. I'll kind of let that dry on its own. Now, the next thing that I wanted to do was I kind of am not 100% totally sold on the color of my bricks. So I'm going to shake up this little homemade color that I have here, and I'm going to pour it just a tad out onto my craft mat. And get my paintbrush once again. And now I'm just going to kind of highlight my bricks a little bit with this burgundy color. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm really liking the color here. Not sure that you can actually see. There we go. So we've got some whites and some yellows and some greens and some burgundy colors and all kinds of stuff going on our brick. So, and actually, I'm not sure if this is actually catching all the bling that's going on, but oh, it's awesome. All right, so I want to make sure this is good and dry. Okay, so to finish off my brick wall, I kind of wanted to have some vines going up my wall. But if I add the molding paste directly to this, then the colors are going to bleed through. So because I know that gel medium is a sealer, if I take some of this out and mix it with the primary elements, we get a totally different color here. Isn't this so awesome? What color will you get when you mix it with a different medium? I've made my puddle of gloss gel medium mixed with the primary elements, and now I'm going to take a stencil that I have of these leaves, and I'm just going to fill it in. All right, there I have it. Now I need to let that dry. So I'm just going to repeat that process over on this side. Elements into the gesso is so that I can see where to line this up when I go to put the molding paste on top of it. Because the first time I did it on my first cover, I just used the plain gloss gel medium and had a really hard time. So we're going to get this to dry. So seriously, this is so much easier to line up this way. So I'm just going to use my palette knife and I'm going to dab on a little bit of the molding paste because I really wanted some three-dimensional leaves on my brick wall. Okay, so there's that grouping. And then once that's dry, I will finish doing these and then we will paint this. Okay, so on my first cover that I made, when the molding paste had all dried, I painted direct to the molding paste the Olive Vine Silks Acrylic Glaze. Then I mixed up some of the primary elements with water and painted that on there. But I want to just try something. I'm going to try it down in this edge, and you guys can be the first to see it. Is I am actually going to mix some of the acrylic glaze with some of the primary elements, and let's see what color we get from there. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this, and while my paintbrush has got some sticky on it, I'm going to add a little bit of the primary elements to it. And actually what this is doing is it's just toning that green down just a little bit. Oh, what a yummy color. So let's now add a little bit of water to this, and let's paint on, oh, look at that color. Paint on some of this glaze mixed with the primary elements. Oh, this is just yummy. So now that I have my base coat down on my leaves, I'm going to dry this. Okay, so I had a little bit of some of the greened up water from the silks that I kept mixing here. So now I've kind of created another color, and I'm just going to go in and kind of highlight my leaves so that they just have this little added extra bling to them. And because I've mixed it with the silks, that puts a binding agent in it and helps adhere it so that that mica is just gonna pop. So here you have the finished background, and can you just see where that mica from the primary elements is on here? And that is just absolutely pure gorgeousness. So to finish off the rest of it, I used some of the papers that came in the kit and used a spellbinder die and made some roly flowers. And actually with this piece that I had cut off is where I got the background from this. I sprayed all of my leaves with my primary elements in water mixture. And I just brushed on a little bit of gesso here and there. The background was created by spritzing with the mixture. I splattered on some of the persimmon and primary elements mixture, slapped on there, a little bit of vintage ribbon, and there you have it. So I hope you've enjoyed this little snippet of the technique kit, and you too will have fun and your hands will look like this. I hope you have a great day and enjoy the blog hop. Thanks. Bye.